Hello and welcome back to the Tales of the Nakshatra Gods. So today we're going to be talking about the Ashvinis, the gods known as the Ashvinis. And I kind of like the subtitle for the talk is Indra's Embargo. Because here, do you remember what's been going on so far? So far we talked about there's Varuna, the original Lord of Paradise, who's a very impartial, just person. And then there's an event where the dragon, the first Naga, kidnapped the rivers, Appas. And the rain god really wanted the waters to flow again. But Varuna wanted to be patient and wait for the waters to just naturally leak out. The Indra forced an attack on the dragon, and with the help eventually of Varuna and Agni and the rest of the gods, defeated the dragon. But then after that, Indra, showing the nature of Jeshta to be the best, he did a bit of politics and got Varuna exiled for having failed to take care of this situation, and got himself promoted to be the king of the gods because he took care of the situation. However, after Indra takes over the position of the king of the gods, it becomes evident that he doesn't have the power that Varuna had. So he needs help. The biggest help that he gets is that Yama of Bharani takes over all the really heavy-duty tasks. And that's the nature of Bharani, is very heavy-duty. Heavy tasks, heavy responsibilities. Yama took over all the heavy responsibilities that Varuna had of making judgments about who's right and who's wrong, and who did good and who did bad, and who deserves this and who deserves that. Yama took all of those over. Indra didn't have to worry about those. Then Indra used got an upgrade on his decision-making capabilities as a gift from Agni and Brahma. They gave him Vishaka. They gave him the Indragni, the ability to really think clear and have great focus. Then what else did Indra need? Indra needed an upgrade on his strength and vitality. Well, because, remember what he did? After he took over from Varuna, he purged heaven of all the dissidents. So he kicked all the Nagas out. Very racist. It's very similar to racism, let's say. I don't know if it's racist, but it's very similar to racism where this one person did this, so everybody associated with that one person now has the stigma of it. So because this original Naga kidnapped the waters, Indra said, all you Nagas are bad. Get out. So he kicked out all the Nagas, and then quite a few of the gods were kind of disgusted by this and went along with the Nagas. And then they became like the opposing team. So Indra's constantly battling with the opposing team, so he needs to be pretty darn strong. Whereas Varuna didn't have that problem, because Varuna had everybody united. So Indra has to fight all the time. He needs to be strong. So they make a special superfood. This is what we did last week. We talked about Soma. They figured out how to make a special superfood called Soma that would give whoever drank it super extra great vitality and power and strength. And the gods actually got it away from the Nagas and the so-called demons, and that helps them very much. Especially it helps Indra, who's the primary drinker and the controller. Indra controls the Soma supply. Now, today we're going to talk about Ashvinis. What's their role in this whole thing? They have an important role in Soma also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you the narrative that I have in the second section of my book. The new book that I put out is called Nakshatra, The Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology. You can get it on Amazon. Just Google Viktikara Nakshatra and it'll come up. First half of the book is the Taittiriya Brahmana Nakshatra Sutra. Second half, more or less, a little less than a half, is this tale of the gods. And so let's read it and talk about it. We'll read the section on Ashvini. So I call this section Indra's Embargo. So Indra got this Soma, and that makes him very powerful. So again, it's not really an inherent power that he has, but he's dependent on something external for Soma, so now he's worried about it. So he's got to make sure he's got enough supply, and he's got to make sure that his enemies don't get it. So Indra jealously guards his supply of Soma and shares it only with a select few. If you want to get on Indra's bad side, which nobody would want, but sometimes it happens by mistake. Some people do. You could do a Vedic ceremony and not offer Soma to Indra, but offer it to somebody else. There's a few tales, at least a few tales in the Puranas, of a lot of problems that happened like that. There's a very interesting one with the king who did a ceremony because he was infertile and he wasn't having any children. But the ceremony wasn't involving Indra, and Indra got really upset with that and turned the king into a woman so that she could have babies, but in a very devious way. You can't really be a king anymore. But then the story of this king is very, very interesting, and it's very, very illustrative, illuminating on the male-female nature, because this king was both a male and a female and knew both sides of the story. So, but some other time we'll talk about that. It doesn't have to do with Ashvini. Right now, so I'm just mentioning that Indra is really, really jealous about Soma. If you don't include your Soma offering to Indra, he's not going to be your friend. So because he knows that much of his power comes from the miracle drug, Soma, he's particularly paranoid about who else should be able to drink it. As far as his enemies are concerned, he ferociously protects it from falling into their hands. So forget about getting Soma if you're not on Indra's team. If you're on Indra's team, you may get access to Soma. If you're not on Indra's team, you better forget it. But here's an interesting story. The dragons, however, were once able to lick a few drops of it. So here's the story. They were able to lick a few drops of it when Vinata's son, the divine eagle Garuda, freed his family from slavery by giving them a pot of it. So I'll tell you this story now. The story goes like this. This story will give you a glimpse into the Bhadrapadas. So there were, I think, 12 or 13 very important women early in the universe. One of them, his name is Kadru, and one is Vinata. And most of them were not married. They didn't get married in those days, but most of them were having babies with Kashyapa, this like scientist, mad scientist, or brilliant scientist with genetics. So Vinata was the foremother of a lot of reptilian species and a lot of insect species. And Kadru only had 2 kids, but they were very special. She had, as far as I remember, I'm telling the story from memory, the most special one, she had Garuda, the divine eagle that Vishnu rides. And she also had Aruna, who drives the sun's chariot and is associated with sunrise. So as you might know, Varuna, however, has malformed legs. So the reason for that is that she cracked the egg too soon. She was too eager to see what children she would have, because she got few children from Kashyapa, but they would be very, very powerful. But but still she became impatient on the first one. The second one, so her sister, these two are sisters, Kadru and Vinata. Somehow Vinata was jealous of Kadru. So as far as Aslesha goes, Vinata is the mother of Nagas, the mother of dragons. So Vinata's disposition is in her children. So Aslesha has a tendency to be jealous. She was jealous of... Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Kadru is jealous of Vinata. Vinata is the mother of dragons. So why? It was something to do with her children were too powerful. Now, what's the story? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by some weird sounds. Okay, so the story was she wanted to get revenge on her sister because she was jealous of her. So she made a bet. She rigged a bet. The bet was, when they were making the Soma, a lot of other things happened first before they could actually make the Soma. And a lot of amazing things came out from this churning of this universal milk. One of the things that came out was this amazing horse that was really so white. So the mother of dragons, Kadru, made a bet with the mother of eagles, Vinata. She said, did you know that there's actually black hair? That horse actually has black hair in its tail? And Vinata said, no, there's no way. And she said, well, I bet you that there is. And what's the bet? Just like a lot of times sisters do, brothers do, I'll be your slave. I'll do whatever you tell me. So she said, all right, if I win the bet, then you're my slave. And if you win the bet, then I'm your slave. But not just me, but all my children are also your slave. And if I win the bet, then you and all your children are my slave. Okay, let's do it. There's definitely no black hair. So what she did was, this horse was huge. So she had some serpents. She's the mother of serpents, so she had some black serpents go and attach themselves to the horse's tail. So she lost the bet. This Kadru won the bet by cheating, because the horse appeared to have black hair in its tail. And then the Vinata admitted defeat, and then her, Garuda, and Aruna became the slaves of the Nagas. Then, why I mentioned this would also tell you something about the Bhadrapadas is because several of the Nagas, or few of the Nagas, were very disgusted by it. They were disgusted by the deception that their mother, the jealousy and the deception. The most powerful of all the Nagas was Ajaikapat Sheshanaga, Ahirbudnya, different names for this being. And he said, I'm out of here. And he left. So this is the one thing that you'll know about the Bhadrapadas, is it's actually honest. These nakshatras are honest and not deceptive. And not very jealous either. Okay, so coming back to this story and how it relates to the Ashvinis, Garuda was really depressed. The divine eagle was really depressed because he knew his mother was tricked into this situation, and he's enslaved to these dragons. So he asked the dragons, isn't there some way that we can get out of this slavery? And they said, yeah, there is. If you bring us nectar, if you bring us Soma, if you can get Indra to give us some Soma, then we'll free you from your slavery. So what Garuda did was, the eagle, he went to Indra and he said, I'm currently enslaved to the Nagas, along with Aruna and my mother, Vinata. They offered me to get out of slavery if I could bring them some Soma. Can I bring them some Soma? So Indra said, well, I don't want you to be enslaved to the Nagas, but I don't want them to get Soma, so I have an idea. You take this pot of Soma, but they don't know that you told me. So I'm going to follow you secretly. And as soon as you give them the pot of Soma, you're released from your slavery. Then I'm going to immediately take it before they get a chance to drink it. So Indra disguised himself as a cloud or something because he's the god of rain. And Garuda flew down to the Nagalok with carrying a big pot of nectar. So he comes to the dragons, holds out the pot, says, as soon as I give you this, I'm freed from... I probably didn't say that because suspicious. But, okay, here you go. Now I'm freed from when I give you this, I'm free from slavery, right? And so is my mother and all the children and all that stuff forever? Yes. Okay, here. So he puts it down on the ground, and then the dragons come forward to grab it, and then Indra comes shooting out of the clouds like a lightning bolt and grabs the pot and dashes off with it. But what happened is, when he shoots out of the cloud like a lightning bolt and grabs the pot, it splashes. And so there's a splash of Soma that fell on the grass where the pot used to be. And the dragons got down on the grass and licked it off the grass. And they say that this is why the snakes that we see on Earth have tongues that come out like this and have splits in their tongue. Because a particular kind of grass that it fell on is Kusha. And Kusha is very, very strong and has a very sharp edge. So when they licked it, it split their tongues in half. So this one example of Jeshta's intelligence, actually, strategy, how it can solve problems. Dilip Kumarji, hello. That's one example that's good to reveal the nature of Jeshta. It also tells you a bit, that story also tells you a bit about the Bhadrapadas, because this Naga, Seshanaga left, did not want to be a part of the deceptions. So let's see what else we got. So what we know so far is Indra definitely keeps Soma from the Asuras at all costs. Does not want the Asuras to have Soma. Besides this, he even embargoes or regulates who amongst the gods can drink it. Not even all the gods can drink it. This became a particularly pressing issue when Surya, the sun god, unexpectedly had handsome, strong, powerful twin sons, the Ashvini. Why is it unexpected? Because the Ashvinis were born on the sudden. There was no gestation. And it happened when the sun god realized that his wife had gone away and left a copy of herself behind, and that he had been having sex with a copy of his wife, making children with a copy of his wife. Got a little frustrated. He said, "Where's my real wife?" And he went off to find her. He found her in the form of a horse, and he was like, I've been making babies with this wrong one, with the copy of you. I want to make babies with you. So they immediately got to that without even leaving the form of horses. So the mother just immediately gave birth to these two children that were twins from her nose. The horse has a nice big nose. So these two horses came out from her nose, and then they became these beautiful gods. So the Ashvinis can shapeshift back and forth between horses very easily. They were born as horses. Most gods can shapeshift. So, but it was on a sudden. It was like all of a sudden nobody expected these, and they're beautiful because horses are gorgeous. Horses have beautiful manes. Horses are so muscular. Horses are big and strong. Oh, those are the manly. Horses are kind of manly beauty. So he had these two princes. All of a sudden, the sun god. So, like, think about Indra, actually. He's the rain god, but he's acting like he's the king. He's acting as the king of all the gods. It would make more sense if it was the sun god who was doing that. Because the sun is the king. So Indra's a little bit paranoid about the sun, but at least the sun cooperates. But now the sun all of a sudden has these two children that are handsome and smart and attractive and charismatic. This is the nature of Ashvini. The nature of Ashvini is, as we just had our final Nakshatra Sutra intensive session. Just like, that's why I was 10 minutes late to this. We're just finishing that up. The sutra, we just went over the sutra for Ashvini is Ashvino, Ashvayujo, Grama Parastat, Senavastat. So the Ashvini is very attractive. It goes into a grama, it goes into a village and comes out with followers, Sena, people willing to follow their orders. Because it's Ashva, Ashvayujo. It's got horsepower. It's horse-like. So you can imagine Indra, he's paranoid to begin with. Now all of a sudden, the sun god has these handsome, youthful prince children. He's a little bit paranoid that these guys will take over because they're not mature like their dad, who just, wants to keep the status quo and not try to take over the kingship. So since they're mature, they might want to take over Indra's position. So he particularly didn't want them to get Soma. So he forbid them. You can never drink Soma. Okay, so let's see what else I got written here. The Ashvini were born as and often took the form of horses, beautiful, strong, healthy animals who thrive on running fast and free out in the open. Having a horse-like nature, they naturally love freedom. Horses like to run. So Ashvinis like to run. They're healthy and they're strong and they're fast. They like to show it. They like to run. They like to have space. They don't like limitations. They don't like fences. They don't like barriers. So when Indra put a ban on them from drinking Soma, what is that going to do? What's it going to do? It's like if you overly discipline a child, what's it going to do? It's going to make the child want to do things behind your back. So this ban on that when Indra said, okay, but you guys are not really gods, I don't know, you were just born just now, so like you guys can't drink Soma, that just made them want to drink the Soma. So they're very smart, the Ashvins. So they thought, how are we going to get this Soma? We need to get the Soma. How are we going to get this Soma? Let's try to look for information about it. So they thought, all of a sudden they heard that there's somebody out there besides Indra who has Soma. This is really important. This is a very important philosophical thing. The Ashvins came to know that there's somebody in the universe that possesses Soma besides Soma the god and Indra. Yeah, anybody know who it is? Who is the one besides Indra and Soma who actually has Soma? Well, yes, that's great. I was just going to say, even if you can just say that it's a sage and you don't have to know the sage's name, then you get the main point. It's not Vishnu. I don't know why it's not Vishnu, but it's not Vishnu. It's a sage. It's not Shukracharya. It's Dadichi. But it's a sage. The important part is that it's a sage. The sage, because it's a different kind of Soma. So Dadichi understood how he could produce Soma. You got it, Sonia. Dadichi Rishi. He understood how he could produce Soma himself. So this is what will happen to you if you take the karma kanda, or if you take the karma marga, if you take the materialistic path, you'll be like Indra. You'll need Soma. And you'll get your Soma from grapes or mushrooms or marijuana plants. If you take the Jnana marg, the path of philosophy, the path of yoga, then you will get your Soma from naturally within your Atma. Soma is referring to the invigorator. Soma, as we did last week, we talked about what Soma is. So Soma is referring to the super nourisher, the thing which gives rasa and amrita is Soma. Soma gives amrita, or vitality, and rasa, pleasure. So Dadichi realizes that Soma can be anyone can manufacture Soma because their Atma is full of rasa and amrita. Whereas Indra is thinking he needs to get Soma from outside himself. So the Ashvinis heard that sages, specifically this one sage, Dadichi, knows how to make Soma. And they thought, great. So they went to him and they said, can you teach us how to create Soma? But the Ashvin's nature is not very spiritual. The nature of the Ashvins is very youthful. Youthful, a bit superficial, into their muscles, into their hair, into their beauty, into their quickness and attractiveness. That's an Ashvini trait. They use this to go in the grama, to go into the village, to go into the city, and attract sena, attract followers. So their attitude in approaching Dadichi isn't like, they don't even comprehend that Dadichi is producing Soma somehow from the Atma. They want to know, how can we produce Soma? So, but the sage can teach them how to do that. So they said, look, we can learn. Their attitude was, we know a lot about medicine, we know a lot about health, we know a lot about physical prosperity. So we can learn. If you teach us, we can learn it. We could master it. We'd be good students. You should teach us, please teach us how we can make this super medicine called Soma. So Dadichi says, yes, you would be good students, but I cannot teach it to you. Why not? There's actually a practical reason why you can't teach it. Because the Ashvins are not the only ones that heard that some sage can produce Soma. Indra's got his ears everywhere, listening for this stuff. So Indra also found out before anybody else that Dadichi was producing Soma. So Indra, long before this, he went to Dadichi and he said, listen, buddy, if you teach anybody how to do this, I'm going to cut off your head. So Dadichi told the Ashvins, I think you would be able to learn how to make it, but I still can't teach it to you, because if I teach it to you, Indra told me he's going to cut off my head. So the Ashvin said, but you're a sage. Why are you worrying about the threat of a god? Right? Because we have also learned this following along with the different stories of things like, for example, in Punarvasu Nakshatra, where Aditi was cursed by a god to have a miscarriage. And then her husband said, that's not a problem. We're sages. And he just reversed the curse and brought the child back to life. So, you know about that stuff. So the Ashvini said, why are you worried? What Indra's going to do to you? You're sage. And Dadichi says, that's true, but yad yad acharti shreshta satat karma pravartana. Whatever a great person does, other people follow. So I don't want to set the example of disobeying the gods. Okay, so the Ashvini is like, what can we do then? This guy knows how to make Soma, but he can't teach us because he doesn't want to disobey Indra. Okay, we got an idea. So they said, look, we're very good at medicine, physical medicine. We're very good at it. So what we can do is we will take the head of a horse and transplant it onto you. We can do a head transplant. We're going to transplant a head onto you. Then you teach us. Then when Indra comes to cut off your head, he's going to cut off your head, but it won't be your head. We'll have your other head preserved. So we'll take your real head and put it back on you after Indra cuts off the horse one. Sounds good? And Dadichi said, yeah, I kind of like that. Let's do it. So Dadichi agreed, and then he taught the Ashvinis, look, this is how you produce Soma. Now, I don't know the details of how he did it, but the thing to know about this for Ashvini, this is called the Madhu Vidya. And even if you study Madhu Vidya, you look up the term Madhu Vidya, you'll see that it has two senses. One sense is the spiritual sense of the inner production of happiness. The other sense of Madhu Vidya is the creation of medicines. And so this is one reason why the Ashvini Nakshatra is connected with health and medicine. It belongs to horses who are very healthy, and these Ashvinis, they know a lot about medicine, and they synthesized Soma. So basically, they've made medicine. Because Soma is naturally found in food, right? Soma in its highest shape is known as Soma exclusively, the Soma that's Indra has. But Soma is water. Soma is anything, as we talked, anything, how water produces rasanamrita. So if water produces rice, the rice is containing some degree of Soma. And then that Soma nourishes you and keeps you alive, but doctors know ways to create the same effects that the rice would make with some chemicals. So that's synthetic Soma. So that whole branch of science of making synthetic Soma, synthetic food and synthetic stuff for your body, comes from this incident of how the Ashvinis learned from Dadichi how to make Soma. And so this is why the Nakshatra is associated with doctors and healing and medicine. So Dadichi did teach them. And then the Ashvini, Dadichi agreed and taught the Ashvini the secrets of divine pharmacy. So again, Ashvini is like pharmacological. It's for pharmaceutical nakshatra, not surgical or something like that. Although surgeries, I mean, obviously the story they're doing a head transplant, but it's particularly great with medicine, pharmacy. As expected, Indra showed up very soon thereafter. So as soon as the guy finished explaining the thing, Indra comes full of anger and decapitated the sage right away. Just shows up and this is my Japanese political announcements. As planned, then Indra storms off, and then as planned, they restored the head. They restored Dadichi's original head. And then Indra, is still there. So he's pissed off. He's infuriated. But he's afraid. Also, he just cut off the sage's head. And the sage is still alive. So he's now afraid that the sage is going to curse him. So he doesn't do anything further. So what happened at that point is the Ashvinis, they got access to Soma, but not the real Soma. they got access to the synthetic version of Soma. But Indra now even more strongly was like, then they're not going to get the real thing ever. Sonia wants to know if there's other medically oriented nakshatras. Immediately I would think of Mula for medicines. And people like to think of Satyabhishak. This is also a thing, a nakshatra that can make potions and medicines. Those are the other ones that come to my mind. So more interesting stuff happens now. So they are eventually going to get to be able. Yeah, the artificial Soma is not quite as good as the real Soma, because actually this also shows you something about how you approach a sage. If you approach a sage, like whatever you approach the Vedas or anything, a sage, a teacher, any source of knowledge, whatever you approach it, the person who approaches comes away from the sage with their own quality. For example, let's say if I go shopping at the grocery store and my next door neighbor goes shopping at the grocery store, I come away with potatoes and bread and broccoli, and they come away with chicken and like other shit. Maybe a bottle of sake. So it's the same store, but different people with different natures go to it and come away with different things. So the Dichi Rishi, he actually knew how to produce that Brahmananda, the real Ananda that comes from, that Soma is what's supposed to produce Amrita or Ananda, right? But it's already in the self. The Dichi knew how to produce that. But students came to him saying, we're really good at medicine. Can you teach us about this? So, okay, you want to buy this from my store? Here. So, although the Dichi knew a much superior form of Soma than superior to Indra's Soma, the Ashvinis didn't even know that they should be asking about that because of their mindset. So they just came away with a medical form of Soma, which isn't quite as good as Indra's Soma. Okay, but they are going to wind up getting Soma. I'll look at a question or two and then I'll tell you the story about how they wind up actually getting it. How do I pronounce your name? Kamin? HNT? Wants to know if the Ashvini brothers don't want to be king. Actually, I don't have any story of them ever trying to take over. Interesting. Ashvini Nakshatra is pretty light. And it's pretty light and quick and fast. It doesn't really want to deal with the heaviness of being a king. Right. Levi wants to know if there's a Soma better than Indra's. I'm telling you, the Soma that's produced naturally from inside your own self is better than Indra's Soma. Is a Slasha also connected with medicine? Yes, because it's snakes and serpents produce poisons and toxins. Medicines, drugs. Medicines and drugs are the same thing, right? It's just about how you use them. How about my YouTube friends? Yeah, Ashwinis and Yama are brothers. Okay. All right, so let's go. Let's find out this story about how they actually managed to get the real Soma from Indra. It's a great story. So Ashwinis like to wander around. They're horse-like. They like to go into gramas. They like to go to different places where there's people. See what's going on. Sometime after this incident, the Ashvins are wandering around and they happen to see a beautiful young princess. So, of course, that's going to attract your attention. So they go to follow her. They see a beautiful young princess in the forest in a beautiful next to a beautiful lake, and they want to go and see more. So they go up to the woman. So her name was Sukanya, which is kind of not really a name, just more like a description. Beautiful, beautiful daughter, beautiful girl. And what did they find out? They found out that she was married. So you can understand what questions they asked her right away. So she found out that she was married, but they also found out something very interesting about who she was married to. She was married to a very, very old sage named Chavana. Now, you guys may know this guy is very famous, actually. Chavana. And even if you go into any Indian grocery store to this day, you'll be able to buy a product called Chavan something. You know what that is? It's an Ayurvedic jelly. Chavan Prash. Chavan Prash. It's like the most famous, most popular Ayurvedic elixir. I don't know if that's the right word for it. So yeah, it's from the sage. The sage let's see the story of the sage and you'll see why he would be known for health. So probably Chavan Prash is named so because in honor of what happened to Sage Chavan, that this Chavan Prash should be able to make a similar thing happen to you. So sometime later, the Ashvinis happened to see an exquisitely beautiful young princess Sukanya, and they learned that she was married to a very old sage named Chavana. Now, why is this beautiful princess living in a forest married to an old sage? The marriage had been a result of a strange twist of fate coupled with the maiden's extreme feminine nobility. So I'll tell you the story. The story is that the princess went out to just enjoy the forest with her friends when she was quite young, 15, 16. And she was just being silly as young kids do. And she saw, looking at little things, chasing butterfly here and there, looking at a ladybug. And then she saw inside one tree, there was this weird bug. This is like a shiny bug, and she wanted to get it out to look at it. So she put like a needle in there or something, like a tweezer, or put her hands in there to grab it. And all of a sudden she heard somebody say, "Ow!" And there was a sage who had been sitting inside a tree, and what she saw was the shine from his eyes. And she had poked his eyes and ruined his eyes by trying to get the so-called thing that she thought was a bug out. So she felt so bad about making this sage blind that her nobility was, now that this guy's blind, I should take care of him. So she decided that even though she was a princess, she was going to live in the forest with this guy and take care of him. So that's how she became married. And remember, whenever we use the word married with these old stories, it's not marriage like these days. Vedic marriage is very different. But anyway, she basically married this guy. So they said, the Ashvinis told her, well, that's very interesting. You're married to this old guy, this old sage. Can we meet this sage? We love sages. Can we meet this sage? So she said, okay. So she took them back to where their little, small, humble house. When they saw the sage, the Ashvinis were really mortified. This beautiful young girl is married. This sage is so old, decrepit, like knotted up hair and junk, blemished skin and all this, like this decrepit old sage. Now the old sage, he felt bad that this beautiful young girl was kind of like wasting her life and her youth and her beauty taking care of him. So when he saw the Ashvins come, he recognized them as the Ashvins. And he said, you are the Ashvins, you're experts in health, beauty, and medicine. look at me. So for her sake, bring me back to youth. Give me the vitality of a youth. Because I'm supposed to be this woman's husband. If you do it for me, I will promise you, I know that you guys are really, that you're banned from Soma. And that you try really hard to get Soma. And you got this semi-Soma thing. But if you do this for me and her, then I will promise you that you will drink real Soma and your restrictions on Soma will be finished. So they said, well, that sounds like a good deal. So what they did was, they used their medicine. How did they do it? They did something to do with the water. They had to take him into the water. And they did something under the water. Water is important. I don't know how these things work, obviously. Otherwise, I would be a brilliant doctor, like a magician doctor. But they took him into the water, and then the water allowed them to do some stuff with his cells. And they restored Chavana to be youthful and beautiful and healthy. And so they all, three of them, the two Ashvinis and Chavana, come out of the water. And that's what Chavan Prash is supposed to do for you. That Ayurvedic preparation is supposed to keep you youthful and healthy. So they came out of the water, and Sukanya, the young princess, was a little bit shocked because all three of them looked exactly the same when they came out of the water. So, and then they said, then the Ashvinis played I had a little bit of a gamble, because this will also teach you about Ashvini Nakshatra. Ashvini Nakshatra has good appetite, especially good appetite for enjoyment. So since the first moment they saw this beautiful woman, they wanted to be with her. So, okay, they're going around seeing her husband, the sage and everything, but they're still in the back of their mind. I wonder if there's any way that this can work. So they took this opportunity and they said, okay, we all three look identical, right? So you pick one of us. Whichever one you pick will be your husband. So they expected that there's a 33% chance that she's going to pick, 66% chance that she's going to pick one of them. But she immediately picked the right one. And this is another thing that glorifies Sukanya. It's like a feminine glory, that the affection for the beloved is so strong that it's not, they don't even see the external form of the person. They know the person internally and deeply. So she knew right away which one was really her husband. So she selected the right one, and they were super impressed. Then the two Ashvinis are even more impressed with her. So then actually, yes, and then this is funny. Then the Ashvinis leave, and now she's got Chavan Prash, this beautiful young man now, and then her father, the king, comes to visit now and then. So when the father comes to visit now, he gets really disturbed and embarrassed. What happened? You were married to a sage, and now all of a sudden you're with this handsome young guy? What are you doing? So he was a little bit shocked, and then she said, no, this is him, and then she told him the story. And then the Ashvinis came, and they said, the sage informed the king that the Ashvinis told us that you have to perform a Soma ceremony. So the kings can do this. It's a Soma ritual that takes a tremendous amount of wealth, so generally only kings can do it. So in this ritual, the Chavan was the officiating priest, and he invited the Ashvinis to the Soma ritual. And he himself picked up the pot of Soma. The ritual also manufactures Soma, but maybe only humans can do it. He picked up the pot of the Soma and gave it to the Ashvinis. Now, when Indra saw that, he became furious. So what he did immediately, when he saw the Ashvinis arrive at Soma ceremony and then be given a pot of Soma, he became furious at Chavan. And he just picked up his lightning bolt and said, "How dare you violate my ban against these two?" And he was going to throw his lightning bolt and kill Chavan. But what Chavan had just went like this. And just by moving his finger, Indra was like, and then Chavan said, "This side of the screen is Chavana, this side of the screen is Indra." Wait, I can't do this independently. So as soon as Chavana's finger went up, Indra's hand became paralyzed. And so Indra's standing there holding this lightning bolt in his hand with his paralyzed hand, and Chavana starts to chastise Indra. He says, "These two are benevolent gods. They're the sons of Surya. Why are you so suspicious of even your friends?" This is Indra's nature, Jeshta nature, suspicion. "Lift your ban," not this finger, this finger. "Lift your ban on their partaking of Soma with the rest of the gods, or else I will not free you from this paralysis." So Indra was really, really kind of humiliated. Like, what's your problem? These guys are your friends. They're nice. They're benevolent. They have no bad intentions. And then he was also just pushed, like, "Okay, I got you right where I need you. You're stuck there. You want to get out of this situation? Do what I say." So Chavana forced Indra to remove the ban from the Ashvins, and actually all the other gods helped convince Indra. Indra was a bit stubborn at first. And it also shows the nature of the Ashvins is to attract followers. Grama parastat sena vastat. They go into the city and they come out with followers. So Ashvini gets power by having people like it. Having people agree with it and like it. So the other gods, and Chavana liked the Ashvins, and the other gods liked the Ashvins, so everybody took their side. And they talked Indra into removing his ban. And so finally the Ashvins got accepted into the circle of Soma drinkers. And that's the story. So let me see what questions or anything you want to add. Dilipji, are you still there? If you're still there, if you want to add anything, mention anything. Thank you, Nancy. These are some of the best stories, right? Ashvini can trick, Sonia wants to know. Clever but true as trick of medicines required by doctors. Ashvini's tricking. I don't feel that Ashvini is a deceptive nakshatra. It's just very enjoyable. It's a horse. It really wants to enjoy. So it's not like it's really trying to trick Sukanya. It just really wants to enjoy Sukanya. Yeah, playful. Playful is a better word. Catherine just suggested this word, bargaining and playful, better than tricky. Tricky is more like Indra and Jeshta, maybe Aslesha too. Definitely Aslesha too, Jeshta. Those are tricky. Aslesha is playful and hungry. Prankster. Let's see what else we got. Right. Well, which nakshatra besides Ashvini has that nature of being prankish? Or tricky, funny, fun-loving? Fun-loving. I think it's really a specialty of Ashvini. Dhanishta. That nothing is going to come to the epitome of it like Ashvini. Dhanishta is interested in enjoying stuff too, but it's got a more of a goal-oriented nature than Ashvini. Ashvini just wants to run around and enjoy stuff. Dhanishta is more like it's got a goal. enjoyable goal. Mrigashirsha is also light, but it's so timid. It's like Ashvini has confidence. Ashvini is a horse. It's going to go into a city and come out with followers. It has confidence. Mrigashirsha is a deer. Deers don't have confidence. Deers disappear. What else? Eddie, what do you mean about supplements? Oh, the supplements. What is it? Supplications. In my book, I have I also included the supplications. So in other words, in Taittiriya Brahmana, the Nakshatra Sutra is like in the first chapter. In the third chapter of Taittiriya Brahmana, there's another section to the nakshatras. It's not a sutra form, it's in the long form of stutis, prayers to the nakshatras. And I include that in the translation in the book there. Thank you, Dilip G. You're always kind. Yeah, okay, so this is a good question from Trusha. So what is this how is it that humans can produce a Soma in a Soma ritual? So I don't really know. So actually nobody really knows about Soma ritual anymore because it's not performed anymore. Because the ingredient of it is extinct. The primary ingredient of Soma, which is the plant whose sap is the key reagent in the mixture, is gone. So nobody quite knows what it is and what they produce actually. Whether it's symbolic Soma or actually Soma, I don't know. But humans can do a Vedic ceremony under the auspices of the gods and give the Soma to the gods. Something like that. Well, Javier, whatever. The ingredients, he says, the ingredients are produced in your own body. It's not something external. We talked about that actually at length. There's different concepts of Soma. There's an external Soma, which is dependent on ingredients. And that's the thing that Indra is drinking. And then there's the internal Soma, which is what the Rishi knows. Great. Ashwini's problem is to be very happy and light? Yeah, but it's not much of a problem. Okay, good. So we'll call it a day. It was nice. We had my old friend Dilip Kumarji joined us over here on Facebook. So I hope to see you guys again soon. Let's see. So it'll be next week on your Monday. We'll do the Vedic wisdom session. That will be... What was I playing? It's going to be about happiness. Happiness. Okay, so I'll see you then. Thanks so much, everybody.